She ghosted you. She disrespected you. She made you feel like you didn't matter. Maybe you gave your time, your attention, your energy, and what did you get in return? Silence, disinterest, maybe even humiliation. And right now, you're feeling that heavy knot in your chest, that burning mix of confusion, anger, and sadness. You want answers. You want her to realize what she lost. You want to react. But I'm here to tell you, good. That's right, good. Because this is your moment. Not a moment of weakness, but a turning point, a rebirth, a chance to rise, to rewrite who you are, and to become the man who no longer begs, no longer chases, and no longer breaks when someone walks away. You see, most men will fall into the trap. They'll start typing long texts, trying to explain themselves, trying to fix what can't be fixed. Some will go into emotional overdrive, showing anger, posting things online, drowning themselves in distractions, or even going into a silent depression, hoping she comes back. But here's the truth. She expects that. She expects your emotions to control you. She expects to see your weakness, your dependency, your need for closure. That's the world we live in now. One where reactions are currency. One where the more you chase, the more you lose. But you're not like most men. Because a stoic man doesn't react. He doesn't beg. He doesn't explain. He doesn't play the emotional game. He doesn't lower himself to win someone back who never saw his value. He doesn't write paragraphs. He doesn't scroll her stories trying to see if she cares. He doesn't cry for someone who couldn't even offer honesty or respect. A stoic man observes, accepts, and evolves. That's what confuses her. It's not your anger. It's not your silence meant to manipulate. It's the calm, the detachment, the way you disappear from her emotional loop, from the drama, from the story she expected to keep writing with you in it, as a pawn. But now, you're done being a pawn. You're becoming the man who doesn't need revenge, because success is the only answer. You're becoming the man who doesn't need to speak, because your absence speaks louder than anything. And most importantly, you're becoming the man who doesn't break when he's left behind, because he was always moving forward anyway. You don't need to react. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to validate your worth. Your evolution is the proof. Your silence is the mirror. And your distance is the power. And that's what today's video is all about. You've been hurt. You feel that burn, I know. But instead of letting it consume you, you're going to use it. Not to lash out, not to seek attention, but to elevate, to transform, to become so grounded, so unshakable, that she wouldn't even recognize the version of you that once chased her. This is your moment, and you're not going to waste it chasing someone who didn't value your presence. Instead, you're going to give yourself what she never gave you: peace, focus, and direction. Let me ask you something. What if you didn't react? What if you didn't explain? What if you just vanished? Not out of pettiness, but out of power. Not to hurt her, but to heal yourself. Not to play a game, but to walk away from one you never needed to be part of. What happens then? I'll tell you what happens. She gets confused. She checks your profile. She starts wondering, why hasn't he texted? Why is he so quiet? Why does he seem even better without me? That's what silence does. It reflects, it echoes, and eventually it haunts. But here's the truth. You're not doing it for her. You're doing it because you've realized the most important thing. Your value doesn't decrease just because someone couldn't see it. And the man you're becoming? He doesn't wait to be chosen. He chooses himself. So here's what I want you to do. Let her go. Let the story go. Let the old version of yourself, the one that chased, that begged, that needed, die. And in its place, build something new. A version of you that doesn't need closure, because you already closed the door. A version of you that doesn't need a reaction, because silence is your greatest strength. A version of you that doesn't even care who she talks to next, because your path is forward, not back. Let her wonder. Let her regret. Let her remember how you made her feel, not with words, but with presence, with energy, with clarity. And now that you're gone, let her feel the weight of your absence, not because you're trying to manipulate her, but because your life has simply moved on. This isn't revenge. This is rebirth. And the best part? You don't have to scream it. You don't have to post it. You don't have to prove it. You just have to live it. This is the Stoic response. This is how men reclaim their power in a world that wants them emotionally broken and reactive. You don't need to become colder. You just need to become wiser. You don't need to suppress your feelings. You just need to master them. You don't need her to come back, because the version of you who needed her is already gone. So the next time someone disrespects you, ignores you, or tries to break you, remember this. You rise, not through reaction, not through chasing, not through words, but through silence. Through stillness. Through evolution. The world expects weakness. The world expects noise. The world expects breakdowns. But the Stoic man, he gives them nothing. And somehow, that says everything. Let's begin. Understand the game. In today's world, emotional chaos doesn't just happen. It's engineered. It's fed. It's baited. It's built on one thing and one thing only: your reaction. Every time you chase, argue, cry, explain, rant, or post something you hope she'll see, you feed the chaos. You hand over your power. You tell the world, she broke me. And for many women, for many people in general, that's exactly what they wanted. Not because they're evil, not because they're demons, but because it makes them feel powerful. It validates their ego. It confirms that they mattered. The moment you start reacting, they get what they came for: a sense of control over your emotions. And this is where most men fall apart. They think their pain justifies their behavior. They think expressing themselves, explaining what they feel, sending one last text for clarity is noble. It's not. Not here. Not in this game. Because this isn't about clarity. This isn't about love. This isn't about honesty. This is about control. And you lost the moment you started trying to be understood by someone who had already stopped listening. If she hurt you, if she ghosted you, disrespected you, replaced you, or betrayed you, she's not watching you in silence, hoping you find peace. No, she's watching to see how broken you'll become, how desperate you'll get, how low you'll sink to get her back. It's sick. It's toxic. But it's the game. And if you don't know the rules, you lose by default. Let me be very clear. Your sadness doesn't fix anything. Your honesty doesn't move her. Your pain doesn't touch her heart the way you think it does. Why? Because the moment she caused that pain and didn't reach out, she made her position clear. Silence is a choice. Disrespect is a choice. Indifference is a message. And once that message is delivered, you don't respond with love, you respond with silence. The truth is, most men aren't trained for this game. We were raised to believe that vulnerability wins love, that showing how much you care will bring someone closer. But that only works when love is mutual, when there's trust, when there's respect. In the modern world, where attention is currency and validation is traded like gold, vulnerability often gets weaponized. Your openness becomes an entry point for manipulation. Your honesty becomes entertainment. Your breakdown becomes a victory for the one who walked away. So if she hurt you and walked away, let her walk. Not a word, not a tear, not a post, nothing. Because the more you try to explain your pain, the more she knows she still controls you. And here's the raw truth most men avoid. She wants that control. She wants to know she mattered. Even if she left, even if she replaced you, even if she disrespected you, she still wants to know that somewhere deep down, you're broken over her. That you still want her. That she still lives rent-free in your head. That's the emotional game. She doesn't want to fix what she broke. She just wants to know that it broke you. And this is where the Stoic man separates himself from the rest. He doesn't give her that satisfaction. Not because he's cold, not because he doesn't feel anything, but because he understands the bigger picture. He sees the trap. He knows that any emotional display will be seen as weakness. That every post, every angry message, every "I miss you" text is like handing over a piece of his dignity. He doesn't play. Instead, he becomes still, quiet, unreachable. While most men spiral, he centers himself. While most men chase, he redirects. While most men vent online, he builds in silence. And the more he does this, the more he starts to see it clearly. It was never about her. It was about the power dynamic. It was about control. It was about ego. It was about being the one who cared less. That's the sick game modern relationships have become, a contest of who can care less. And while that may sound toxic, it's reality. Whoever shows more emotion first, loses. Whoever tries harder to fix it, loses. Whoever reaches out first, loses. So what does the Stoic man do? He doesn't even play. He exits the game entirely. Because he knows the ultimate power move isn't to care less. It's to become indifferent. To become emotionally unbothered, not as an act, but as a transformation. He doesn't pretend he doesn't care. He genuinely moves on. He genuinely detaches. He genuinely builds a life where that chapter no longer exists. And that's what truly breaks her. Not your words, not your tears, not your late-night calls. What breaks her, if anything does, is the realization that you disappeared. Not physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. The realization that the man who once gave her all his attention, all his presence, all his power, now gives her nothing. That's what makes her question everything. And that's why she checks your story. That's why she texts months later. That's why she suddenly likes a post. It's not because she changed. It's not because she matured. It's because your lack of reaction shattered the narrative she had of you. You were supposed to chase. You were supposed to break. You were supposed to fall apart. But instead, you rose. You vanished. You elevated. You got quiet. You got better. Not to make her jealous. Not to prove something. But because you had no other choice. Because survival required evolution. Because you realized the only way to win this game is to stop playing it entirely. This is where most men get stuck. They want both. To not care, but still be noticed. To move on, but still be seen. That's weakness disguised as strategy. A real transformation doesn't look back. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't seek recognition. It just happens. In silence. In solitude. In discomfort. In the gym. In the books. In the routines. In the isolation. In the self-discipline. Because once you truly understand the game, you no longer play to win or back. You play to never end up in the game again. You stop chasing chaos and start chasing clarity. You stop craving attention and start cultivating peace. You stop reacting to women and start responding to life. That's what being a Stoic man really is. It's not about hiding your emotions. It's about mastering them, channeling them, elevating through them. And here's the most important part. She might come back. One day she might text. She might miss you. She might want to talk. But the Stoic man, he's already gone. Not angry, not bitter, just gone. Moved on. Past it. Past her. Past the old version of himself that even allowed that energy into his life. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Once you understand the game, you can't pretend it's love. You recognize the difference between connection and control, between affection and attention, between love and leverage. And from that point on, your standards change. You don't just want someone who looks good. You want someone who brings peace. You don't just want attraction. You want alignment. You don't just want passion. You want respect. And anyone who doesn't offer that, you let them go, fast, silent, and clean. No arguments. No explanations. No emotional outbursts. Just, I'm done. That's the new power. That's the new standard. That's how you reclaim control in a world that's designed to keep you reactive and broken. So when she hurts you, disrespects you, or walks away, remember, your reaction isn't strength. It's surrender. The real strength is found in your silence, in your discipline, in your ability to detach, refocus, and rebuild without making a single sound. Understand the game, and then leave the table. The world doesn't need more emotionally reactive men. It needs men who can burn and stay silent, who can be disrespected and not flinch, who can be forgotten and still remember who they are. That's how you win. Not by chasing, not by proving, but by becoming untouchable. Let her think what she wants. Let her play the games. Let her watch. Let her assume. You keep moving. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much about your future to ever look back. You've got work to do. And the version of you who still wants closure, he doesn't exist anymore. The Stoic response. When the world begins to tremble around you, when something you value is threatened or taken away, when the person you thought would always be there begins to drift into the distance, there is a powerful temptation to act, to react, to say something, to do something, to reclaim what once was. But the Stoic response is not rooted in action for action's sake. It is rooted in observation, in the quiet gathering of awareness, in stillness. Observe, accept, remain silent. This is not cowardice. This is not avoidance. It is control. It is clarity. The first reflex for many is to reach for their phone, to send a message, to write a paragraph of confusion or longing, to demand closure, to explain, to justify. But what are we really doing in these moments? We're trying to regain something we never truly owned. We are reaching outward when what truly needs our attention lies inward. The world can break your heart, bruise your ego, twist your expectations into knots. And yet, The Stoic reminds us, we are not owed stability. We are not owed explanations. We are not owed reciprocation. What we are given, moment to moment, is a choice. And in that choice lies our freedom. Not to control others, not to rewrite the past, but to choose how we will meet the present. You don't fight chaos with more chaos. You dissolve it by not playing. This phrase is not merely a clever quote. It is a weapon against the storm that brews in your chest when someone leaves you on read, when their attention shifts elsewhere, when you can feel them slipping through your fingers like sand. The modern world has created a cycle of emotional overexposure. We are constantly reacting, constantly speaking, constantly proving. But the Stoic learns to master restraint. Do not text back. Not because you want to appear strong, not as a tactic, not as a form of manipulation, but because your peace is more important than a reply. Because clarity is born in silence. Because you've finally learned the difference between impulse and intention. The need to be heard, to be seen, to be validated. All of that is natural, but it is not necessary. Not for your growth, not for your transformation. Go inward. Withdraw not in bitterness, but in discipline. Not in resentment, but in reflection. When something or someone you care about walks away, you are left with a void. Most people rush to fill that void with noise, new people, new habits, distractions. But the Stoic sits with the void, studies it, learns from it, turns it into a mirror. What does this pain reveal about you? About your needs? About your attachments? Pain is information, but only when you listen without panic. Only when you stop trying to solve your pain by erasing it. The person who walks away is a teacher, not because they meant to be, but because every loss teaches you something about what you clung to too tightly. The Stoic doesn't just feel the pain, he dissects it. He holds it to the light like a sacred text and studies it line by line. Start building your discipline, body, and mind. This is where the response becomes action, but intentional action. The world wants you to spiral, to post for attention, to become bitter, to prove your worth externally. But none of that leads to growth. Growth is forged in quiet routines, in early mornings, in repetitions when no one is watching. When you choose to redirect the energy of your heartbreak into self-discipline, you are practicing alchemy. You are taking what was meant to weaken you and using it to build strength. You begin with your body. You learn to command it, to wake it, train it, nourish it, not out of vanity, but out of respect, out of commitment to the vessel that carries your soul. Physical discipline becomes a form of psychological liberation. When your body becomes an instrument of discipline rather than indulgence, your mind follows. You think clearer. You see patterns in your emotions. You feel urges without obeying them. You become sovereign. Then, the mind. Reading, reflecting, writing. The Stoic studies not only philosophy, but himself. He journals not for social media quotes, but for inner confrontation. He learns to question his beliefs, to trace his reactions back to their roots, to uproot the weeds of insecurity that hide in the corners of his thoughts. He does not seek applause. He seeks clarity. The discipline of the body, the discipline of the mind, they are not glamorous. They are not loud. But over time, they transform you. They make you less dependent on external approval, less reactive to temporary storms. You do not become cold. You become composed. You do not become indifferent. You become intentional. You start to see that most suffering is not caused by events, but by your resistance to them. Let your improvement be the message. In the past, maybe you would have written long texts, posted things for attention, engaged in arguments that led nowhere. But now, your silence is not emptiness, it is evolution. You no longer explain your worth. You demonstrate it. Through your habits, through your posture, through your aura. When you walk into a room, people don't feel your desperation. They feel your presence. Calm, grounded, focused. This is not about revenge. It's not about becoming so successful that they regret leaving. That's just ego with a new disguise. The Stoic doesn't improve to prove anything. He improves because it is in his nature to grow. Because his pain pushed him inward, and what he found inside was potential, raw, powerful, unpolished. And now, day by day, he's shaping it into something beautiful. There will be moments where you are tempted to reach out, where the silence feels like it's suffocating you, where the urge to explain yourself or seek closure is louder than any philosophy. And in those moments, remember, You are not being tested by them. You are being tested by life, by fate, by the gods, if you believe in them. And they are asking you one simple question. Will you react or will you respond? Reacting is easy. Responding takes strength. Responding means observing the emotion rise, then letting it pass like a wave. Responding means accepting that some doors must close for your real path to open. Responding means realizing that who you become matters more than who left. And that maybe, just maybe, the pain you feel now is the fire that will forge your next level. So you wake up earlier. You train harder. You read deeper. You speak less. But when you do speak, it is with purpose. You don't beg for understanding. You build it inside yourself. You don't wait for their return. You return to yourself. And in this process, you discover something they can never take from you: your sovereignty. The Stoic man, the Stoic woman, they walk the world not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence. Not because life never hurt them, but because they turned their wounds into wisdom. Their scars are not hidden, but they are not used as excuses. They are reminders of what they've survived, of what they've learned, of what they've built from the rubble. There is no need to post about it. There is no need to prove it. True growth is silent. You become someone who no longer needs closure, because you've closed the chapter within yourself. You no longer need validation, because you've validated your own path. You don't need them to understand why you disappeared. Your actions explain everything. The world may never give you a thank you. The person who hurt you may never apologize. The closure you seek may never arrive. But the Stoic doesn't wait. The Stoic moves forward, not with bitterness, but with gratitude, not with anger, but with resolve. Life has shown him a lesson, and now he carries it, not as a burden, but as a badge. So when the moment comes, and the silence is loud, and the chaos invites you to dance, decline the invitation. Sit still. Breathe. Remember who you are becoming. Remember what you are building. Observe. Accept. Remain silent. That is the Stoic response. When someone hurts you, something primal stirs within. Not rage, not sadness, something deeper. The undeniable invitation to react. The moment it happens, the betrayal, the disrespect, the silence, the shift, your mind races. You feel your chest tighten. Your ego screams. It wants to strike, to defend, to prove that you matter, that they can't just do this and get away with it, that you are someone worth reconsidering, worth loving, worth keeping. And that's where you arrive at a crossroads. The first path? React like the old you. Explosive, desperate, loud. Words you can't take back. Messages you know you shouldn't send, but do anyway. Paragraphs drenched in pain. You justify it. I just need closure. They need to understand what they did. If I don't say it now, I'll regret it. But deep down, you know the truth. It's not about being heard. It's about being seen. You want them to see your pain, because if they see it, maybe they'll validate it. Maybe they'll come back. Maybe they'll fix it. But they don't. Because reacting gives them control. Because reacting affirms that they still occupy space in your mind, in your heart, in your identity. And that's what the old you would do. The old you had something to prove. The old you was still building self-worth on someone else's response. Still tying his value to the opinions and attention of another person. Still thinking that love had to be chased to be earned. Still hoping that if you bled enough in front of them, they'd finally realize your worth. But here's the truth. Bleeding for people who don't care only leaves you empty. The other path? You disappear into growth. No text. No public heartbreak. No late-night voice notes. Just silence. And behind that silence, not a broken man, not a bitter one, but one who finally decided to rise. You go dark. Not because you're playing games, but because you're done performing. You go inward. Not to sulk, but to evolve. You stop chasing people and start chasing the man you were meant to become. You cut out the noise, the apps, the distractions. You use the heartbreak as fuel, not to prove something to them, but to finally prove something to yourself, that your worth is not dependent on being chosen, that you don't need to beg to be understood, that your pain is not your identity, it's your initiation. So you disappear. You hit the gym with a vengeance, but not the angry kind, the sacred kind, the kind that says, I will rebuild every part of me. You lift with intention. You push through reps not just to sculpt your body, but to discipline your mind. You track your sleep. You get your diet in check. You stop escaping through screens and start facing your own reflection, day after day. It hurts, yes. It's raw, but it's real. You read. Not just self-help, but philosophy, psychology, history. You study the minds of those who endured worse and became more. You start to see that you're not the only one who's ever been betrayed, discarded, hurt. And something in you shifts. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? You start to accept that this pain, this betrayal, it didn't happen to you, it happened for you. You meditate, you journal, you become still, not numb, aware. You face the storms inside you without running. You feel the weight of every unspoken emotion, and you let it pass through you like fire. It burns away the illusions, the attachments, the ego, the need to be liked, the desire to be chosen, the obsession with proving yourself. All of it dies in that silence, and something new begins to live. One day, you look in the mirror and realize you're not who you were. Your face is calmer, your eyes are sharper, your energy has shifted. You walk differently, not to impress, but because you carry less. You speak less, but when you do, people listen. You show up differently in every room because you're no longer trying to be seen. You simply are. And then, inevitably, something happens. They resurface. A message. A hey, how have you been? A like on an old photo. A story reply. And for a moment, the old self wants to speak. He wants to react. But he's gone. You don't entertain it. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're not the same man who used to beg to be understood. You're not him anymore. You don't seek closure. You are closure. You don't ask for validation. You embody it. You don't chase love. You radiate it. And when they reach out, they're not met with the same man they left. They meet your silence and your transformation. And that, right there, is where the power lies. See, most people change for someone, to win them back, to get noticed. But real growth is different. Real growth doesn't seek applause. It doesn't care if they notice. Real growth is silent, sacred, slow. It doesn't say, look at me now. It says, I finally see myself clearly. That's what scares them. That's what shakes them. Because they didn't think you'd change. Not without them. Not beyond them. They thought they'd always have access. That your emotions were theirs to trigger at any moment. But now, they're standing in front of a man they no longer recognize. Not because you're acting, but because you've evolved. You're colder in the best way. Colder because you've stopped offering warmth to people who only showed up when they needed something. Colder because your time has become expensive. Colder because you now understand the value of peace, and you'd rather be alone in peace than surrounded by people who threaten it. That coldness, it's not cruelty, it's clarity. It's not about punishment, it's about preservation. You no longer give energy out of obligation. You no longer explain your worth. You no longer open your doors just because someone knocked. You sit in your own kingdom, and anyone who approaches must bring respect or keep walking. And the irony? The more you detach, the more they want to return. Because they feel it. They feel the absence of your chaos. They feel the space where your validation used to live. They feel the silence like a mirror held up to their own choices. And maybe they reach out. Maybe they apologize. Maybe they say they've changed. But you've seen too much. You've grown too much. You've built too much. The man you are now doesn't seek reconciliation. He seeks alignment. You don't crave what once was. You protect what you've become. You've become the kind of man who doesn't chase. Not because you're playing games, but because you're playing for something bigger. Purpose, direction, mission. You are no longer here to be consumed by others. You are here to build. Your energy is your currency. Your focus is your wealth. And your silence? That's your strongest message. Because in a world addicted to noise, the man who can sit in silence, who can walk away without drama, who can elevate without bitterness, that man is dangerous. He's rare. He's unshakable. He's stoic. And this is your final test. When they return, when the old world tries to pull you back, do you answer? Or do you smile, knowing you no longer need what you once begged for? Growth doesn't announce itself. It shows up in how you no longer react. So if someone hurt you, and you're standing at that crossroads, remember this. You have two choices. React like the old you, or disappear into growth. And when you come back, don't come back to prove a point. Come back so powerful they won't even know how to approach you. Let them meet your silence and your transformation. If this message hit you, like, subscribe, and remember, Stoic men don't chase stuff. They elevate.